All right, we are right at 1 o'clock, so let's get this thing kicked off. I'd like to welcome everyone to this month's Tech Talk. If you have not joined us for a Tech Talk before, Tech Talks are a monthly event that we have where we like to just get together and have a nice conversation about things technical that have to do with your business and how it can improve with adding some technology to help your ROI. So today's topic is about how to effectively manage assets and equipment in the field. A pretty common thing that a lot of people are interested in. So I think we should have some real nice discussion about it today. So before we jump right into it, I'd like to go over a couple of housekeeping items that we have. And to start off with, this is a recorded event. So once it is over, we will have the recording available on our website as well as our YouTube channel. So feel free to go back and watch it at any time. If you are watching it live, you may submit any questions that you may have through the chat feature or the question and answer feature on Zoom. We'll be monitoring that, and at the end of the discussion, we'll have a little bit of a question and answer period. So feel free to submit any of those, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. And today I'd like to introduce, well, first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Scott Englert. I am the Director of Marketing Operations over here at Axsoft. And today I'll be chatting with the Senior Channel Sales Manager at Axsoft as well, Ian Melnick. Welcome, Ian. You've been with Axsoft for 4 years. And just wanted to talk a little bit about something I found out that was pretty interesting about yourself, that you are a big saltwater fishing fan and like to do it often. So tell us a little bit about that as a hobby for you.
Yeah, God, I've been doing it since I was about 5 years old. There's no better feeling than going out, regardless of whether you catch anything, and just reconnecting with nature and having that downtime and that peace of mind. But you're down there in Florida, and super envious. You guys have some of the best fishing waters. You definitely have such a huge variety in comparison up here in New England.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to fish as well. And that's something that I actually wish I was able to do more of. It is everywhere around here. So if you're, I haven't ever done it before, Florida is a great place to do it. So yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to, like you said, connect with nature, kind of just really super relaxing and almost meditating sometimes. So if you will. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it is really, really nice. So yeah, absolutely. That's great that we can have a nice connection even though we're so far apart. By the way, yeah, Ian is out of the Boston area, so yeah,
Correct.
little far away from Florida, just a tad. So
Well, hey, I'll have to make a trip down there and we'll plan a fishing trip.
absolutely. Yes. I'm
Awesome.
always game for that. Always game for that. So, all right, well, let's hop right into it. Again, today's topic is how to effectively manage assets and equipment in the field. So, to jump right in and kind of ask the obvious, but super important question, because it does change quite a bit from industry to industry, et cetera, is so what exactly is an asset? What exactly are we talking about here today?
Sure, sure. Great question, Scott. And it's interesting, and every business has what they would consider, different types of assets. So I look at it as an asset as anything that is valuable to the company to complete their job on a daily or weekly basis. And I'll give you some examples. So, when we talk about assets, typically we think about construction equipment, skid steers, bulldozers, forklifts, but it's so much more than that. So if you think about, the laptops, how are you keeping track of who gets what laptop, or, where are your telephones, right? Where are your telephones or your tablets? Um, maybe it's a municipality or a police station, and hey, you handed out radios or equipment. How are you tracking who has what, right? So really anything that for a business that is important to their success, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's higher value items. We're not talking maybe about a $50 drill, But we could, maybe, hey, they have to sign it out from the warehouse. So that could be an asset that maybe they go missing a lot. $50 is nothing, but when you lose 10 of them a week, that's now $500. And that adds up, it adds up huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we're really talking about almost anything that a company provides to a worker that really has a monetary value for sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
obviously that can vary, but they're all important, and especially when they add up with multiple employees. So, yeah, for sure. So, let's talk a little bit about some ways that companies can manage their equipment and assets in the field better.
Sure. Sure. So in my experience, most companies aren't managing any assets, right? Um, and and that can cause major challenges for them, as we were discussing earlier with the drill, $50 drill. But if you lose a lot of them, it costs the business. Not only does it cost them financially to purchase new equipment, but what if they don't have that piece of equipment to complete the job that they need? Now they're behind on work, right? So when we talk about ROI, it's not just the financial cost of purchasing a new X, it's also the time lost on completing a job, or completing a job, as quickly as possible. So I find, it depends on the type of piece of equipment, but there are GPS trackers that you can put on both powered and non-powered pieces of equipment. So for example, the skid steer or the crane or the bulldozer, those are powered, right? So you can track those. We have other companies who have dumpsters, or pod storage units, mobile storage units that we track, tractor trailers, and those would be, non-powered. And so that where that piece of equipment is, in real time.
Mhm.
Uh, we also have other companies, like we were talking about, that maybe they give out the drills, or they have uh, radios, laptops that they give out. So how else do they track them, right? So maybe they fill out a form and say, hey, this, scan the serial number, this device went to Scott. So now when they say, hey, where is this particular asset, right? Maybe it's a sprayer for I don't know, a pesticide company, or a drill, right? Or maybe a tank of Freon. Hey, who was the last person that had this? Who signed out this particular tool? So that's huge when it comes to being able to track those devices. You can also do things like geofences. So if you think about a construction company or a landscape company, hardscapes, and they're leaving their equipment, or not leaving their equipment, they're taking their equipment back and forth for the shop every day. That takes a lot of time, right? To drive it back to the shop, pick it up the next day. Um, and so if they leave it on the site, they can do what's called a geofence. So a geofence is essentially it's an electronic fence on a map, so that the customer can set alerts. Hey, if this device leaves this area, I want to know. I want to get a notification immediately via email that says, hey, device 123 has now left this area, right? And that's huge, because I mean, it helps prevent theft, um, and helps recover lost items, right? When you're talking about these powered devices or powered machines, the businesses that we work with, a lot of times they just look at it and say, well, we have insurance, and insurance is great, and that should cover most of the cost of the piece of equipment. But what about the lost wages, right, that you can't earn from that piece of equipment? I know we've gone through a chip shortage, and I'm sure that there are still industries that have yet to bounce back to their full capacity. So maybe if you need that piece of yellow iron and you want to buy a new one, maybe you can't for 6 months. How does that hurt your business versus being able to know that it's been moved and recover it?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And you touching on that a couple of times brings me back to an example of a company that we were working with, that we were um, they had tracking on their vehicles, and overnight one of their vehicles was stolen. they were able to recover it with the police using the tracking. And after speaking with them, obviously they were thrilled to get the vehicle back. But the biggest thing that they were thrilled about was literally the thousands of dollars of equipment that were inside. And we said, "Whoa, oh yeah, that's great. You saved thousands of dollars." I said, no, 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 no. You don't understand. All that equipment, goes towards jobs that are going to, make us money. They're calibrated exactly the way we want them to be. There's all kinds of, customization that we've done over the years with them. That stuff would all have been lost if we had lost these assets, this equipment that was on
Sure.
this vehicle. And so for them, it was like immeasurable, the amount of money that was saved just from tracking that one vehicle. So yeah, it ends up kind of being a big thing when you really kind of think about all of the things that you could potentially lose outside of just the physical piece of equipment.
Sure.
Those kind of hidden costs, and hidden profits that you could gain from having that stuff stick around, if you will.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree. I agree. And it's interesting. A lot of businesses, small to medium businesses, aren't keeping track, in a digital manner. They're keeping track maybe on paper, or just, hey, we dropped it off here, right? And
right,
so
right.
for logistics, now you have to have somebody who knows exactly where every piece of equipment is. But how do they do that? You're playing telephone, right? It goes through that chain. Hey, where's this thing? Let me go ask this person, this person. So not only do you not have the information immediately, and I think when talking about asset tracking, one of the concerns is, oh, well, I think it's going to be too expensive. But if as we talked about, the return on investment is huge. Your example of tracking that vehicle and the specialized equipment, right, or custom equipment, it is so inexpensive in comparison to not only the way it helps your business, but also saves your business if something were to happen and something were to disappear.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It's immeasurable almost.
Yeah, yeah.
It really
and
is.
and really was the word that they said, that they used. So
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. So we talked a little bit about kind of the obvious one, which is construction. So
sure.
let's talk a little bit about some of the other industries that could benefit from having a digital asset management.
Sure, sure. Wow. So, I mean, there are, I would say almost every company has assets, whether powered, not powered, that they want to know where they are, right? So, I mean, from transit, and I give you some examples. So, transportation, right? Maybe we want to track either the vehicle or the ship, maybe a shipping container,
Mhm.
right? Or a trailer for tractor trailers, right? Because I'm sure you've seen them. Sometimes you're driving by and you see this trailer just in a lot, and it's been there for 3 years. I mean, it sounds like somebody lost it, right? They don't know where it is. How much do those go for? It could be a landscaping company, right, with their mowers or their trailers, right? They have trailers as well. Not, I guess you could consider this asset as well, but with the landscapers or pool companies, um, they a lot of times they have to keep track of the chemicals that they use, right? For
Very
EPA
true.
reporting, because some of these chemicals are dangerous and they have to, show where they utilize them. So that's huge. God, how about I have a company that we're working with. It's does organ delivery,
Mhm.
right? So how do they know where that cooler is with that heart or kidney or lung, right? Slap a tracker to it. So now we know in real time where it is. Uh, HVAC companies, right? Again, with the tools. Um, Man, police departments, like I said earlier, with the radios. Hey, our company, right? Hey, I've
Yeah.
got a company, I've got a company phone, I've got a company laptop. How do I know, or how does my IT department know that Ian has number 12345? They scan the barcode, they have me sign for it. Yes, I am accepting, this company property. Now we know that Ian has that particular device.
Mhm. Exactly.
Absolutely. Um, I mean, there's so many uses when it comes to just tracking company assets that a lot of businesses don't even think about. And I think that's probably the most rewarding part of my job is when I meet a customer and I'm able to show them challenges within their business that they have written off because they've been dealing with it for such a long time because this is the way we've always done it. But if I can show them a different way of um, obviously saving them money, but tracking everything that's important to that company, it makes me happy and makes me friends.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That makes total sense. And honestly, kind of it's almost like a loaded question, like what industries? It's basically every industry, to be quite honest. Yeah, I mean, because
Absolutely.
everybody's using some form of equipment, that they probably want to keep track of and make sure that it doesn't, um, just disappear, or uh,
Get, get left on a job site
right,
by
exactly,
mistake or
exactly. Yeah,
what
yeah,
have you.
yeah.
Yep.
In whatever capacity, absolutely.
Yep.
So, yeah,
It also adds accountability as well.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. So your employees know that these items are being tracked, and they're going to be expected to be returned to them, et cetera. So absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
um, let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that are available for companies that are looking to secure some of these assets.
Sure. Sure. So I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but there are physical asset trackers, right? Something that screws on, glues on, gets hardwired in. Um, so that would be a physical asset tracker where you could see on a live view map, hey, where is my device, right? And obviously you can set all sorts of alerts with the geo fences we talked about, the electronic fence on the map, or hey, when it moves, I want to get a notification, between these hours. Um, so that's huge. There are also other ways, as we talked about, maybe with the laptop or the drill. Maybe we have it barcoded, and they fill out that form using a phone or a tablet, and they scan the barcode, they sign for it, and so now digitally you're able to go in, pull a report to see, hey, who's got these particular items that we may be looking for, which is absolutely huge. Some companies choose to do barcodes. Others tend to use NFC tags.
Mhm.
So near field communication, it's basically we'll call it a shortwave radio, where your phone has a reader. You can just put it up against it and it'll pull that information.
Mhm.
So a lot of our companies do that. Excuse me. And then with those forms, as far as checking in and checking out, we can also keep track of other items, for example, like inventory management, right? Those are still assets. Maybe they're smaller. So for example, fun fact, I had my water heater went the other day, a couple of days ago. So I had a plumbing company come out, and they have these bins of all of these different parts and pieces. And there's a barcode. They're actually using our software, and there's a barcode on the front of every bin. So now when they come in and they pull a widget. Plumbing is not my strength, so we'll call it a widget.
Okay.
They pull out a widget, and they have the invoice on their phone or on their tablet, and they just scan that barcode. It automatically puts it in with the pricing, right?
Mhm.
So now they can keep track of what parts and pieces they've used, which are assets. They're smaller, but still assets, parts and pieces they've used, and they're able to provide me an invoice with all of the information. And then on the back end, the manager or the warehouse manager can say, okay, Scott today used these pieces. Let me replenish those pieces or equipment on his truck, right? So that's absolutely huge. I mean, when it comes to inventory management, especially when you have field workers, right? Electricians, HVAC, maybe pest control, plumbers, anybody who has parts and pieces in their truck or in their vehicle that they use on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I think a business wants is to have one of their technicians go out and have run out of something that they need, a $5, $10 piece, but now they have to go either to the supply house or the local hardware store to go purchase it,
Because it
which
stops the entire job. Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
It takes time, but now think about that purchase. Okay, well, they purchased it either on the company card or their personal card. They have to get reimbursed. They have to expense report. You have a lot more people involved than just, oh, well, it's only $5 or $10. It's that piece of paperwork that has to get touched by multiple people. And there was a stat. that I was reading about, that each piece of paperwork that has to get handled and filled out costs about $4.50 for every piece of paperwork. So, if you can do it digitally,
Yeah.
there we go, right?
Right.
Another
Absolutely.
another ROI, and think about how often that happens especially in your field service businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And stopping that job for that $5 piece can have a ripple effect on all the other jobs that you got going on, et cetera. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, a lot of stuff that can be, you know, domino effect, if you will. Yeah. So.
sure, sure. Especially if you have, hey, so you have your main guy and you have a helper. Well, now
Hmm.
you're paying two people that half hour is, hey, maybe it's only 30 minutes. You're paying one guy $30 an hour, you're paying one guy 15.
Hmm.
You still, you're still up there in cost. And again, productivity, right? How often
Absolutely.
does that happen? How many more jobs could we get out a week or a day per crew if we had everything,
Right.
everything that they needed at all times?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Got to keep those widgets plentiful, if you will.
Absolutely. Keep the widgets plentiful.
Yeah,
To
that's
make a
right.
t-shirt.
Yes. Okay, so we talked a little bit about some of the stuff that our solution Teamworks can do,
Mhm.
like geofences, et cetera. So let's talk a little bit more about some of those features that could help with some of this stuff from our software capabilities.
Sure, absolutely. So as we discussed, your assets where you want to attach a physical device to know where they are at this moment. So we can do that again with the geo fences and a slew of different alert types based on, hey, we want to know when they leave the area or they come into the area, whether there's motion detected. There's so many other features there. We also, as you mentioned earlier, with the van that was stolen with the custom equipment, fleet tracking. Hey, is my employee speeding? There's a driver scorecard, which is awesome. So you can assess certain values to events. So I'll give you an example. So it's from 0 to 10. So let's say hard acceleration is a 5, right? But speeding, you want it to be an 8 or a 9 because it's going to cause accidents. And then what a lot of my customers do as a best practice is they offer their employees, hey, whoever has the lowest score for the week or for the month gets a gift card to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. And it doesn't have to be a lot, maybe $25, a week plus bragging rights. But if you think about, hey, if most of our employees, because unfortunately we know not all employees will be engaged typically, but most of your employees are engaged and they are driving more cautiously, it's going to save wear and tear on the vehicle. They're less likely to have accidents, right? So if you take all of that for $25, plus, you know, if you have somebody driving erratically or speeding, the company name is on the side of that vehicle, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, if I saw a guy who's speeding going 90 miles an hour on the highway and it's an ABC Plumbing, and my boiler goes, I'm probably not calling ABC Plumbing because I saw the way they drive, and that reflects upon that business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Me, obviously, me being from the marketing side of thing, branding is super
Sure.
important, and for that aspect right there, yeah,
Yep.
100%. Yep.
Absolutely. And so from a teamwork's perspective, so we discussed the fleet tracking and asset tracking of, hey, where are they now? But we can also do that on phones, on tablets. So, hey, where is my employee today? Where have they been throughout the course of the week? How long were they stopped? How long were they at each job? Are they at the job? Again, with the geofence, the electronic fences on a map, and really easy for accountability. And I guess that's something we didn't mention previously, but people are also an asset,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So hey, don't you want to know where your people are? And I think for three reasons, right? The first one would be, hey, the cost of the device, right? Hey, you have the new devices. Most of them are north of $1,000 for a decent phone, right? For a Samsung or an iPhone. But accountability. Hey, are they where are let me try that again. Are they where they're supposed to be? throughout the course of the day? Or did they leave and go sit at Dunkin' Donuts for a couple of hours while they're on the clock and they're being paid? Uh, but the third reason is for safety. Think about a large job site, large construction job site, and somebody's in an area that they probably shouldn't have been in, right? But the scaffolding collapses, or they fall in a hole, and they can't, they get knocked unconscious, or they have debris on them, they can't get access to their device. How do you find them? How do you know, Bob has been gone for 45 minutes? I can't reach him on the phone. He doesn't respond to my texts, my phone calls. Let me pull up the map and see exactly where they are and walk over to see what's going on. Right. So for a safety aspect, think about police departments, um, utility companies, construction, electrical companies.
So
It
I
that
have an
that part, please.
oh, sorry. I have another perfect example of what you were just talking about, from a customer. We actually had a customer that was up north, and it was wintertime. They were driving to a job site, and they ended up getting into an accident, going off the side of the road into a snowbank, and they were covered, like they could not be seen from the side of the road. And immediately the person who was watching, the job dispatching and everything, knew something was wrong, and couldn't get a hold of the person, but had them tracked, and was able to send out police to, you know the
Yep.
accident scene. And it would have probably taken a lot longer for them to get, basically rescued,
Sure.
um, without that. So I mean, something like that, which could happen at any time, and like you said, to a valuable asset of a person, that is probably a great worker of theirs. So important, so important. So
Sure, sure. And
yeah,
Scott, in that scenario, hey, if the person's injured, right, and it's snowing, so hypothermia, maybe they don't make it because they couldn't find the vehicle, unfortunately,
absolutely,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then the
yeah,
company's open to a lawsuit, and they're like, oh my God, I need to find this vehicle. And when you get to that point, if you don't have any sort of tracking
hmm,
available, it's too late,
yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely,
So, and it's unfortunate. So, I mean, I encourage businesses, hey, look into it now before you get to the point of, we really need something like this because we had this happen.
right,
You know,
yeah.
it's better to be preventative and be prepared than to have to prepare after the fact,
Absolutely. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which, obviously that company wasn't expecting something like that to
Of
occur. That's
course.
probably not why they even signed up for the tracking in the first place.
Hmm.
But in the end, I mean, gosh, again, that immeasurable kind of safety feature that ended up, possibly saving that person's life. I can't. I honestly cannot remember. If it was something that was life-threatening accident or not, or but it was just something where they couldn't get a hold of the person at all. So obviously they were incapacitated enough, to
Sure.
not be able to answer their phone, etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
you're 100% right. You are absolutely right. Yeah, it's yeah, more companies should definitely look into it. It's this is 2023, and there are a lot of companies out there who are still running their businesses like it's the 80s and the 90s,
yeah,
they're I see it all the time. I mean, there's a lot of technology out there that can help your business move forward, not only just making you more efficient, saving time and money, and I'm sure they hear that all day long, but also, helping. It has added benefits, as you just discussed, Scott. Right? Well, I trust my guys. Well, that's fine. What if something gets stolen? Do you trust everybody else?
right. Yep.
What if the scenario that you had, right? It's not necessarily just for Big Brother. It is for the health of the business and protecting the company's best interests.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And from the feedback that we've gotten, the whole big brother aspect. A lot of people, kind of immediately go there when they think about tracking. But once workers start using it and they understand, wow, this is actually helping me with my kind of accountability and being able to back me up on things where
Right.
I was doing the speed limit, or I was where I said that I was supposed to be,
Sure.
etc. It's for your workers who are already doing great work and doing the right thing, they love it. They love it. So yeah, it's
Right.
so again,
We
really good
actually,
stuff.
quick story. We had a home healthcare company. So the individual like a visiting nurse,
Hmm.
the individual called up and said, "Hey, your person wasn't here or hasn't shown up in the last X amount of weeks." And because they, it's government health, right? It's
Hmm.
Medicare or Medicaid. Um, they could lose their license.
Sure.
So they pulled up the tracking and said, no, look, we were at Mrs. Jones's house, for X amount of time on this date, this date, this date. Here's all the tracking data, right? And I mean, they could have lost their whole business, right? Because if they pull that contract, what are you going to do now?
Right. Right. And
It's
how do you verify that otherwise? Right.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's concerned about quote unquote big brother, I mean, just think about the amount of data that's collected from your phone. When
Yeah.
you go on Google or Facebook or Instagram or Snap, there's so much more data that's collected than just where are you,
Of course. Yeah.
right? And you're giving this to not to your company, you're giving this basically to anybody who's willing to buy that information.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but true. Yes.
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure,
But when it
right?
comes to your company, yeah, that's probably the least of your worries. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So, all right. Well, we are getting close to time here, so I'm actually going to switch over to see if we have uh any questions. So let me check the questionnaire. It looks like we actually do not have anything submitted, which is I always say is a good thing. That means that we did such a good job, Ian, that we covered every single aspect. Nobody needs any additional info. No. Uh, but
We're
no,
amazing.
yes, absolutely. So, um, one thing that I did want to talk with everybody about before we head on out for today is a promotion that we have going on right now. And it is a 14-day trial for Teamwork to try Teamworks for free. And one of the really nice things I always like to talk about with this trial is, it's not a light version, a watered down version. This is the real deal. So everything that Ian and I have been talking about today, as far as features are concerned, are all included in this version of Teamworks. We have our staff able to help you get all set up exactly the way that your business would like to take advantage of any of those features. So we have somebody that's dedicated to onboard you and really get you set up and running the best way that you can, so that you can try it for those 14 days and really see if it's something that's right for your business. See if it's something that will affect your ROI and potentially um, have some benefits like the things that we were talking about today. So if you're interested, I definitely would encourage trying it out. You can do so by scanning the QR code that you see on the screen, or you can go to axoff.com and there's a nice big banner right up at the top where you can click on it and get signed up for somebody to contact you about the trial. So please feel free to do so. Uh, Wanted to thank everybody for joining us for today, and definitely thank you, Ian, for coming on board and sharing
Yeah,
some of your insight and information. It really was a great one today, so I do appreciate it.
absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right, well,
Thanks for having me. Look forward to speaking to all of you to help you solve some challenges within your business.
absolutely. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time. All right.